Portal dominoes are starting to fall for UCF, and John Walker is out.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend, James Duncan, UCF sports commentator, to talk a little UCF football here on a Thursday morning. James, it's that time of the year. Players are announcing their decisions to enter the portal when the portal opens in January. On today's show, we'll talk about John Walker making the decision to jump into the portal. We've got a little bit of insight there. There's no portal for coaches, but UCF has a coach that's decided to change teams. We'll talk about Brandon Harris leaving UCF for FSU. And then we're going to revisit a topic that we talked about earlier this week with UCF declining a bowl. Talked to some people over at the UCF athletic department. They wanted to add some context to that discussion. Let's start at the top here. John Walker to the portal. The defensive lineman decided he is out. Now, I would say that the D-line was probably the best performing position group on the team this year. Would you agree?
I mean, it's close. I would say it's between that and the secondary. I think you had a really good secondary. But of course that we'll talk more about that in our second segment. But yeah, the D-line was a very, very much top performing group this year.
Yeah, look, John Walker anchored to that group. Now he's making the decision to hit the portal. Look, man, when players perform, James, the portal's going to look pretty attractive. And you know, like I know, when you're the guy coming in, there could be some pretty lucrative deals in the portal here. Somebody who's worked around these contracts and worked with collectives. What do you think his worth on the NIL market is right now?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of UCF fans are really disappointed about, this guy leaving. This is a hometown hero guy. And I could definitely tell you that this year, actually, you know what? I'll say last year, before he got hurt, was worth a lot on the NIL market. Was injured for an entire season, your second season in the Big 12. But then, he comes back this year and statistically doesn't have the greatest year. But if you go look at the film, he was getting doubled a lot and drawing a lot of attention. And so he gave guys on the outside and, the other tackle on the inside a really big chance to make a difference. John plays nose tackle, and so he's going to draw a lot of double teams. So he was able to give guys like Malachi, like Nigel Leak, like RJ Jackson and Horace Lockett and Rodney Laura, those guys the opportunity to shine. And so you have a player that's not putting up crazy numbers, but is unbelievably dominant in the trenches. It really sucks to see him leave. I think he's probably worth a lot of money. Unfortunately, I think more money than UCF might be willing to shell out for him this year. I think that's one of the things.
Well, he was UCF's highest graded player in run defense per Pro Football Focus with a grade of 82.9. That's ridiculously good, on the P4 level. Now, as far as pass rush is concerned, there's a little bit of a different score there. But certainly, again, his strength was in run defense here. And, I don't know anybody who can't use a run stopper in the middle of that defensive line. So, he'll probably land somewhere decent, I think. But I don't know if defensive linemen, they're not really pulling in those premium NIL deals in the portal, right? It's the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and maybe even a premier offensive lineman that are really getting the bigger deals in the portal right now.
Yeah, I don't know. There's, I definitely, those guys are making a lot of money, but some of the highest grossing D linemen this year made upwards of $2 to $3 million. And you got to be a pretty darn good quarterback to be making $2 to $3 million. And just like you got to be a pretty darn good, defensive tackle to make that much money. I think if you're a good football player, you're going to make money at any position. But having a good D lineman that's going to draw a lot of attention, similar to UCF situation with Lee Hunter. Lee Hunter didn't have a statistically dominant season his last year here, but it was because he was drawing so much attention. And so you saw him go to Texas Tech for upwards of $2 million. And that's just one of those things, man, that you have to understand when it's almost impossible to retain a player because they are worth so much. You might not see tons of production out of them one year, but also this kid was like a freshman All-American. His first year he played for us. He had a season coming back from injury. I really find it difficult to assume that next year he wasn't going to have a dominant season. Maybe, with Horace Lockett and RJ and Rodney Laura, like that would have been a very dominant unit. But it's unfortunate that he got in the portal. And I think a lot of UCF fans thought he was going to finish all 4 years here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's more so that he was worth so much money or just worth more than you're willing to pay him. And it's about how you distribute the dollars pretty much here. And look, again, we're going to deal with this on a different show, but UCF's got money. They just are going to be very judicious about where they decide to spend that money and how they decide to spend it, to try to build a competitive team all around with deals that make sense on the market, because the clearinghouse still has to approve a lot of these NIL deals. And if you've got a small social media following and you don't have a bunch of other marketability and you're not a top 5 player at your position, then they're going to say, hey, look, man, $800,000-$900,000 for this player doesn't make sense, and we're not going to okay this deal. Those are the rules. Now, whether those rules stick and they're enforcing them, that's a whole other discussion. But certainly, John Walker is a guy who he performed. Like I said, as mentioned, he's the highest graded player per PFF in run defense. Before we move on, I do want to ask you, how disappointed are you, if you're Alex Grinch, that you couldn't retain John Walker? Because there's an ongoing discussion right now about retention over acquisition in college football as it pertains to NIL and the money being shelled out for these athletes. And when you invest in a guy, you're wanting to see those guys stay a lot more than you're wanting to go out and just drop a bunch of money on the next high school stud.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely disappointing, but I think if you look at what, Frost and Grinch did in the portal last year in terms of going out and getting talent, I feel like people, really forgot about how good Horace Lockett and Rodney Laura were before they got injured. Like, they were putting up, almost a sack a game. And that's what you want from your D linemen. And they were good at run stop too. And so I think it's important to know that you have depth at that position. It's not like you are losing, in terms of like tight end. It's not like you're losing Dylan Wade. You're not losing. You might be losing one of your, your best guys at that position, but you have 3 other really solid guys, and you have freshmen and sophomores coming up to develop, and one of them might pop. You never really know. And so I don't want to get too over, upset and overreact. It's definitely unfortunate. And I think it's more unfortunate because it sets an expectation for the future that your hometown hero guys that have, that you really, really want to stick with your program for all 4 years, that have developed into great talent, might not stay. And it might just be because of an external money issue. And so, like you said, UCF has the same rev share as everyone else in the conference.
They filled the coffers, 20.5.
But UCF is playing by the rules, for better or for worse.
Yeah. I know another school that tried to do that. They fell behind in recruiting pretty quickly before they about faced. We'll see what happens there. We're going to move on, but this is a discussion that we're going to come back to. If you cannot retain, you must acquire. And in a perfect world, you retain and acquire when it comes to recruiting. But certainly the money changes this conversation about where you focus that year over year. Look, when players do well, they're going to move on. John Walker is moving on. But when coaches do well, they also are going to move on. We're going to talk about a coach who decided to move on. I'm bitter about it. Right here next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. NFL Sundays move fast, guys. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's why that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when games start to shift as a receiver gets hot or a defense tightens up or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. And you can bet next touchdown, scores, drive results, totals, all of that good stuff. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you with FanDuel. James, as I mentioned, players move on when they do well. Coaches do too. Brandon Harris to FSU. I already didn't like FSU, but I'm really starting to not like FSU because it seems like, and we talked about this, you pointed this out before we started recording, they are rating UCF for coaching talent. And I don't like it. And I don't think you like it either. Talk to me about Brandon Harris, man, deciding to be a Seminole. I don't know, man. They got the stupid thing where they put the Spirit midfield, and Gus went there, and I'm bitter about all that too.
No, I have my love for FSU. My grandfather was the captain, quarterback at FSU, and I have my love for that university. But when it comes to taking staffers from UCF, not necessarily too pumped. They can take the ones that I'm not super happy about, but when they take a great coach like Brandon Harris and Tim Harris Jr.
Right.
And there's some rumors that they are trying to, and I will say there is legs to these rumors that they are trying to go get former running backs coach from Tulsa, Cam Martin, who found a lot of success here with RJ Harvey and Myles and all the other backs.
That's Gus working. That's Gus taking care of his guys.
And to be honest, and I know we spoke about this before, it feels like they are assembling the UCF like Avengers up there in Tallahassee. I don't know why. And unfortunately, this is going to be like a really big test because you have practically all the same staff except defensive coordinator. And it is going to be a test of, you had all the same staff at UCF. If they succeed, was it the players? Was it the resources that UCF was able to provide? Because if it wasn't the coaching, which we blamed for years, then what is it? And so if FSU kills it next year, that's going to pose a lot of questions for UCF fans. Now, FSU looked like they were going to, run people off the field this year, and UCF fans got down in the dumps and they said, well, why couldn't it have been like us? But every true UCF fan, knows that it's the cycle of Gus, and he's going to give you a game that you're not supposed to win. And then he's going to lose a game that you're supposed to win. And then you guys are going to have like an okay game. And then you guys are going to win another one. Like it's this constant brutal
emotional roller coaster, man.
Yeah. And so, it definitely sucks. Great guy. It sucks that he's leaving. And, unfortunately, I don't think this is the end of the dominoes falling. When staff leaves and guys that were connected to that staff sometimes go with them, and that does not change for position coaches. I don't think, John Walker is the only or last star from UCF that you see in the portal.
Yeah, I will tell you this. Again, when you have success, you're your assistants are going to get jobs elsewhere. They're going to get promoted. They're going to get paid more money. And as much as we laud and praise coaches for being able to replace players year over year, replacing coaches is just as important because it's going to happen. If you are a successful program, your coordinators are going to get head coaching jobs elsewhere. And, I would say probably one of the most amazing things about Nick Saban was he just kept finding coordinators. And when he was done, when he hired Kevin Steele as his defensive coordinator, I knew he was done. Because for the first time in 15 years, he hired somebody who had no chance of going on to be a head coach. So he was like, look, I'm on the back half. Let me just go ahead and hire this retread as my defensive coordinator, and he'll do good enough. I know the guy. But it's going to happen. And I think that it's a compliment to what UCF did defensively, because if you suck and your guys can't develop, nobody's coming for them. But they came for Brandon Harris. And I think the other thing that maybe is a little underplayed here is he has strong recruiting ties to South Florida. And if you're FSU, you definitely want that on your staff, right? The recruiting aspect of this probably going a little overlooked.
Yeah, no, and if I'm UCF, I'm looking at Pat Surtain, a former FSU staffer in the same coaching position, to come fill the need that, almost like doing a swap. He has unbelievable recruiting ability, and is also a phenomenal coach. And it's you have to go out and get somebody quick because the coaching carousel is insane, and guys are on the market for very short amount of times. If they are a good coach, guys aren't on the market for long. And you also want to have guys for as long as you can, because when the portal officially opens on January 2nd, you are going to see instant commits because these guys are already talking. This is not, it is not like, oh, January 2nd, then you guys can start talking to guys in the portal. No. Those conversations are happening now. And so it is very important for you to know who are your position coaches, because if you try and recruit a guy to a school that has no position coach, you can't recruit that position. And DB is not necessarily something that you need to recruit, but it's something that you need to retain, because you have unreal talent at DB. You have unreal talent at DB everywhere. You have unreal safeties. You have unreal corners. You have a phenomenal nickel that could be playing safety as well. You have so much talent across the board in that unit, but you need to be able to retain them. And to do that, you need to have a coach on staff for that position. I'd be very interested to see if a majority of those guys stay or leave, because that's where a lot of your talent was this year. And to put it bluntly, when your position coach leaves, you don't necessarily want to be there either. And a lot of those guys will bring their talent over, especially if they know they're going to be making more in NIL.
Yeah, the money factors in, right? And how you decide to spend the money will matter. And as I mentioned, UCF filled their $20.5 million coffer. We'll talk about that on another show. But also, that's for all sports. Now, we know football is going to get their fair slice because the Olympic sports don't exist without football. However, it is just a real part of this conversation that is moving schools towards hiring legit GMs to help manage money and personnel. This is the pros, James. And so, look, man, guys like Brandon Harris, who handle the development side for you, help make this decision and these evaluations a little easier, because when you have a good position coach, guys want to stay. And when they want to stay, that retention piece is a little bit easier. So, Harris Jr. leaves a hole, but if you're Scott Frost, it's a hole that you have to become adept at filling, because he's going to have success. And when he has success, his coaches are going to get offers, and UCF needs to be in a place where they're either ready to step up to the plate financially and say, look, man, whatever they got on the table for you, we got more, right? Or because from a win-loss standpoint, I don't know if FSU is an upgrade. Maybe it's a little easier to recruit there because traditionally, but what has FSU done since 2013? Not much in my book, right? You beat Alabama to start the year, and then, like you said, they completely pooped the bed after that. Their season fell flat. So, look, we're going to move on, but a great discussion around this that I want to continue about staffing and how they end up filling this role. We did an earlier episode, and I think it's important when we get information that we correct the record. And so we're going to set the record straight on UCF's decision to forego a bowl game this season, even though they were offered at 5 wins. We'll do that right here next on Locked on UCF. This episode of Locked on UCF is brought to you by our friends at Rougiette. Let's talk about something most men don't want to bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night, guys. And when it shows up at the worst time possible, Rougiette is ready and designed to help you take back control. Rougiette is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both brain and the body so you can feel present and confident and ready when the moment matters. Rougiette combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue, so it absorbs fast and discreetly. The science behind Rougiette Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. You connect with a board of certified doctors online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average. You can stay present and confident and in control when the moment is right. Guys, life is hard. You got to stay harder than trigonometry, though. And Rougiette can help you get there. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege. That's Rougiette, RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege. Get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. That ad read always trips me out. Life is hard. Stay harder than trigonometry. You know what wasn't hard was the decision for UCF to not play in this bowl game. They have to be Rougiette ready for that one. They knew they were going to decline. We did an episode a couple days ago where we talked about the changing landscape of college football and the importance of these bowl games. The Duke's Mayo Bowl was ready to accept UCF. They were ready to accept Auburn. They were ready to accept another school before those two. All 3 declined, and Mississippi State ended up accepting the invite. After we published the episode, as happens so much in our business, a university representative in the athletic department reached out and wanted to provide context and said, they had already decided as an institution that if they were to get an invite, they would decline it. So it wasn't like, hey, we got the invite and we said no. It was, hey, look, we didn't get to 6 wins. So after the season's over, we're going to move on. We're going to focus on the portal, and we're going to focus on getting our team and our staff ready for 2026. They made that decision early, and they informed the conference of this decision. So it was not a surprise to anybody. But Andrew and I did go deeper into this conversation. The opportunity opened up because teams that did qualify declined the invite. Teams that did win 6 games and took the $500,000 fine. Notre Dame said, we didn't make the playoffs, so screw it. We're going to focus on getting our team ready for 2026. And we're going to take our ball and go home. That decision widely panned in the national media, especially with teams like JMU and Tulane making it. Paul Feinbaum went on an epic rant talking about how G5 teams have no business in there. I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in because Andrew had his piece on this. This is difficult for me because as a former G5 team, UCF has been in this position, but left out of the conversation. Now, if they repeat what they did in those years when they were left out, they're in, no doubt. But you were once Tulane. And I got to tell you, I halfway agree that I would rather see, maybe not over Tulane, I'd rather see Notre Dame over James Madison in this playoff. But I have no desire to see a team that has absolutely no shot of advancing, playing in this playoff. Now, if they happen to win or it's close, I will gladly eat crow on this. However, 60% of the time, I'm right every time, James. Tell me what you think here. What is the bowl system done right? Like where teams don't see the value in playing in a bowl game in December with all the other things you have to deal with. You got early signing day, you got the portal opening in January, and we don't all earn our bowl bid outright, and we have to fulfill our conference duty to do it. And in this case, some teams did earn it, and they still said no.
Yeah, I think if you earn it, you need to play. I think it's the Notre Dame situation, I think, is a little frustrating because, and just looking at it from like knowing players that, in our last year at, not this past year, but the previous year with Gus's last year, when we hit 7 losses, the guys were pretty upset. And for these student athletes, they get, 4 years, sometimes like 7, it feels like, to play college football. But in those years, those are the only years that they're playing college football. They might not ever play NFL football. They might not ever play CFL, XFL, whatever. And so when you make a bowl game, when your team makes 6 wins, you are pumped. You are excited because you know that you're going to get to play an extra game at the end of the year.
One last game of college football for some of these guys. Yeah.
Imagine your last time on the field, you didn't get to take in that moment. You didn't get to appreciate that moment on the field because you thought that it wasn't going to be your last time on the field.
Okay, so let me stop you there and let me paint a scenario. And because I now know that people in the athletic department are watching, this is something to consider. What if in this case UCF wins 5 games, which they did, and they get a chance to play in a bowl game, which they would have had, and the players come and say, look, I know that you guys have but this could be my last shot to get on the field. And maybe the guy in front of me that's first string is hitting the portal, so he's out, he's not going to play, and it's my time. And I got one more shot at it, and all you have to do is accept this bowl invite. Now, for teams like Auburn who are changing coaches, I get it because you literally coaches are taking other jobs, and if you're going through a coaching change, I'm excluding you from this conversation. But if you're not going through a coaching change, do you think maybe it would be fair to poll the athletes to see if they want to play it before you make the decision?
Mike, there's not a single kid on that team that didn't want to play.
Didn't want to play? Yeah, I mean,
I can almost guarantee you that. I even know personally certain players that came out right and said, I would be there if we played.
Yeah.
I would be there. I would be there.
It's such a fascinating conversation.
They want to play the game. They want to play football because for most of those players, it's their last time playing. But unfortunately, if you can't get 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense, and your special teams guys to get out there and go play, then you don't have a football team. I mean, think about it. You only had one quarterback on scholarship that could have gone out there and played, and that's Davi. Because the 2 of them hit the portal, and one of them's hurt.
You better get that Wildcat ready there, baby.
Yeah,
Snap it to the running back. Let's go.
Wildcat. And so I just think for a lot of those guys that know they want to hit the portal, or they know that they have a nagging injury and they want to rest, playing a bowl game is a lot of work. It's a lot. You have to continue workouts, you have to continue bowl practices,
travel,
and so travel and set up all those operations is a nightmare. But it is an experience for these kids, and I think that anytime that you think you're even close to being eligible, you should try as much as you can to prepare to take that opportunity. I understand that things were crazy this year with the Bulls, and I don't think that it's not my favorite thing that certain teams got in the college football playoff. Do I think that Notre Dame should have been in the playoff? Yes. I think do I think that JMU shouldn't have been in the playoff? No. I think that JMU deserves to be in the playoff just as much as I think Tulane deserves to be in the playoff.
Really?
I don't think that Alabama and Miami should have been in the playoff.
Well, we agree there.
A 3-loss Alabama that didn't win the SEC championship and lost to a non-bowl eligible Florida State, and a Miami team with 2 losses to unranked teams. Mike, what are we doing?
There's 2 sides to this coin for Alabama. Hear me out. Number one, you're absolutely right. A 3-loss SEC team. I thought the precedent was set last year. 3 losses and you're out. But not only do I believe they should have been out, I think Vanderbilt should have been in.
I wouldn't have minded that at all.
They fell victim to a narrative that UCF has fallen victim to, that you aren't one of the traditional powerhouses, and they went 10-2 in the SEC. And I understand that Vanderbilt isn't traditionally very good, but this year, damn it, they were. And they got one of the best players in college football at quarterback in Diego Poppy. He's an absolute dog, and they should have been in, man. You robbed those kids.
There was
robbed them.
Interesting decisions made this year.
Robbed them.
Very clearly showed some bias.
They played their butts off, and you robbed them of a chance to play for a championship. And just like we said, will be some of these kids' last year of college football, man. This committee got it wrong. And this is why it's hard for me, because they could have made some noise in the playoffs. This is why I don't either expand the thing and this is why I'm not in favor of JMU making it, because I don't think they have any chance of advancing very far. This isn't college basketball. The talent gap between them and the team that they're going to see in the first round is as wide as the Atlantic Ocean, and they're going to get destroyed. I would rather see Vanderbilt in that spot, and I would rather see Alabama at home where they belong, because they got boat raced by FSU.
Yeah,
and they barely beat Clemson Auburn.
I don't disagree with you, and I think that
when
the time comes that that Oregon JMU game will be the least watched college football playoff game in years. And you know what? I hope so dearly that JMU wins. I hope JMU wins, just because I pray for chaos.
Yeah, look, I'm all about chaos. Yeah, I'm all about chaos. I just hate that this was at the expense of Notre Dame, at the expense of Vanderbilt, right? Those are the 2 most egregious omissions in this to me. Again,
I put BYU there too, because to be honest, BYU might not have had the most insane schedule, but they did pretty much boat race every team they played other than Texas Tech, and they lost to Texas Tech twice. So realistically, you shouldn't punish a team for losing their championship game, just like they didn't punish Alabama for losing their championship game. You punished BYU for losing to Texas Tech twice, once on the road and once at the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, look, I get it. Alabama's schedule on paper better, right, than BYU, better than Notre Dame on paper.
But not their losses.
Yeah, but the other side of that coin, and this was the importance of the regular season panning out the way that it did, with Texas A&M losing to Texas and thus not getting in, the 1-loss SEC team, and they didn't get into the SEC championship game. Arguably, they were the second best team in the conference. They just lost the wrong one, man. They lost the very last game of their season, and it opened the door for Alabama to get in. So technically, Alabama was the SEC runner-up.
Yeah.
And the Big Ten runner-up, the SEC runner-up, very unlikely that those teams are going to be left out of the playoffs, because you're punishing them for playing that extra game. And that's the other side of that coin, right? I don't like it, because Auburn got left out in 2017 after they beat Georgia and Alabama back-to-back and handily, but then had to play Georgia again and got beat handily. But they got punished for it. and Alabama didn't get punished for it this year. And that's all I'm saying. Like, it was just, I mean, the way that it just seems to benefit certain teams all the time while punishing other teams all of the time.
Yeah.
And so UCF has been punished, man, in years where they were good. Auburn has been punished, man, in years where they have been good. Vanderbilt is being punished this year for being the Vanderbilt of the past.
I agree.
But if anybody else played that schedule in the SEC, they would have been in. Vanderbilt and Kentucky are the only teams in the SEC that could play that schedule, only lose 2 games, and they didn't get boat raced by anybody and get left out of this playoff, man. I just don't. They are applying the rules very inconsistently, and I don't like it. And I just hope that once Scott Frost gets this thing to a championship level, that we're not looking at a 2-loss UCF that has no chance of making a 12-team playoff. The shows that we will do.
No one can guarantee that will be the case,
man. I agree with you on BYU. It's just this is the second year straight where the Big 12 is only going to have one representative in the college football playoff, the champion.
Yeah,
but this year, I think BYU is a more egregious omission than last year,
for sure. And I think also that and I want to give a lot of credit to last year's ASU team. I mean, like, what a freaking team! Multiple NFL guys on that team. Now Sam Levitt in the portal, which is interesting. But what a great team! But this Texas Tech team, man, they had a Heisman candidate, and I don't care that he was left off that list. That was a Heisman candidate in Rodriguez at linebacker. That is one of the best seasons I've ever seen at linebacker. And I hate Texas Tech, and I am happy to admit that. That guy is insane. And now
they paid for that, Ross. That's a $30 million.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best Big 12 team you've had in a long time. I would be very, very surprised if they lose their first game in the playoff.
Yeah, I would say this is the best Big 12 team we've seen since Oklahoma and Texas left the conference.
I agree.
Yeah, so look, man, there are talented teams in the Big 12. You had 3 2-loss or less teams. Utah went 10-2. BYU went 11-2. I mean, God, if you're BYU, it's just you almost wish you never played that championship game, and you might be in this playoff, right?
Would have been fun. Yeah.
So it's just tough, man. If your season had ended 1 game early, you're in. If they win, they're in. But I think Texas Tech still gets in. So that was the conference's best shot to get 2 teams in, was BYU actually winning that game. In this scenario, I'm not sure that Texas Tech gets the bye. But it would have been close. And, it's the bowl season means so different. I hope that they find a way to keep these traditional bowl games relevant outside of the 12-team playoff, because, back in 2016, Penn State got screwed. They got screwed, man. They won the Big Ten, and then the team that they won the Big Ten over went to the college football playoff, Ohio State. But they went on to play one of the most epic Rose Bowls I have ever watched versus USC that year. I don't know if you remember, but the score, I think, was like 52-49. It was they scored 100 points, man, and it was the shootout to end all shootouts. It was one of the most entertaining games I've ever watched. And the bowl system gives us that. It gives us games we wouldn't normally see in the regular season versus teams that you wouldn't normally play.
Yeah.
And now we've got teams sitting these games out.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And to be honest, Mike, with the way that with the direction that college football is trending in, and I think it's funny, you've already seen this in other sports, notably college basketball with the Crown tournament that UCF went to last year and almost won.
I remember. Yeah, we covered it.
Yeah. There was an NIL prize at the end of that.
That was the prize, yeah. NIL.
I would be very, very surprised
out here
if bowl games don't start offering a cash or maybe some sort of brand sponsorship, because every bowl is sponsored, You say, hey man, you win this game, you're sponsored by Duke's Mayo for the next
Yeah, James Duncan. This is why I have you on the show, because that is probably the most intelligent take in Locked On UCF history. What I was going to say was the obvious answer to this is, if you're the NCAA, you get to work with the sponsors and you up the money around these bowl games to make the financial incentive something these schools can't turn down.
Yeah.
That's it, right? And I'll end on this because this show ran a little long, but I think these conversations are important here in the offseason. Auburn moved the Baylor game, their season opener, with Big 12 Baylor, to Atlanta. The Auburn community was in uproar over this because you're taking a home game away from them, and in a true, pure college town, that's revenue lost for businesses. It's a dead weekend now in season, and they've got a short amount of time to make a lot of the money that they will make in the year. So the community, it wasn't a popular decision with the community. However, they are going to get about upwards of $8 million in NIL money that they can use to offset current deals to Auburn athletes in 2026, and then pull that money back out of rev share and have it to redistribute as they need.
Yeah.
And, the financial incentive was something that they could not turn down despite the uproar from the community. So it is a very powerful motivator. And I'm telling you, if you get the sponsors up and you up the money around these bowl games to where, it's a clean 5-6 million in NIL money, they'll play it. I promise you, they'll find a way to field the team and play it.
You will put your team out there, regardless of if it's you have a walk-on at quarterback. Like you will figure it out.
Give me $5 million in NIL, and I can go out and I can spend $2-3 million in the portal on a gangbusters QB.
Yeah.
If that's all my team is missing.
Yeah.
And like I said, I can take that money, they can finagle that to where that money is given straight to that player. And then you can pull that money that you committed back out of rev share and maybe give $500,000 to women's basketball, which is life-changing for some of these programs, man. I'm telling you, what a single football player gets is the whole NIL budget for some of the Olympic sports. And I think that the money part of this cannot be ignored but it's financial. It's financial incentives. I think it gets people back to a place where they are not turning down bowl invites in any situation, and even in UCF situation, right? If $4 million in NIL money was on the table, no way they pre-decline an invite to a bowl game at 5 wins. What, we won 5 games? No, you're there. If you have to field a team of toddlers, if Terry Mahajer had to suit up and go out there for $4 million, he'd do it. That's all I'm saying. So, look, great conversation, James. We're going to go on and get out of here. I want to thank everybody for joining today's show. Hit the comment section after the video. As always, let us know what you think about John Walker hitting the portal, about Brandon Harris headed to FSU. Man, I already hated them. Now I hate them even more. And let us know what you think about the bowl system and whether or not it can survive as is. I think it's going to be tough, but how would you fix it? Again, hit that comment section. Let us know what you think. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow right here on Locked On UCF.